Hello, Glendale residents. On Saturday, March 14th, 2020, City Administrator Rachel Safstrom and I issued a proclamation declaring a public health emergency in the city of Glendale due to the COVID-19 novel coronavirus. We did so under Wisconsin Statutes Chapter 323. We did not put an ending date on that emergency declaration because we did not know how long this coronavirus outbreak would last. That emergency declaration was unanimously affirmed by the Common Council 9 days later on March 23rd, 2020. While COVID is by no means over, the city no longer needs to have emergency powers given to its leaders in order to be able to fight the coronavirus. We've reached a time in the pandemic when the emergency declaration can be lifted and we can continue to do the things that we have been doing, in terms of getting vaccinated and in wearing masks and washing our hands and doing those things in public that help to contain the virus's spread. But we don't need a city emergency declaration in place to be able to do that. So as of Saturday, May 1st, 2021, City Administrator Safstrom and I are we're rescinding the emergency declaration that has been in place for over 13 months. So what does that mean for us as a community? Well, many of our stores and businesses and restaurants are still going to require you to wear a mask if you want to frequent their place of business. Their businesses are all private property, and they have every right to set conditions for entry into the business. You'll be obligated to obey their rules when you shop or dine at those establishments. The city doesn't need an emergency order for those businesses to ask us to comply with rules when we're in their businesses. I'll give you an example. My family and I regularly shop at Costco up in Grafton. Grafton does not have an emergency declaration in place, nor do they have a mask requirement in the village. And yet, every time I walk in that Costco store, I have to have a mask on. And anyone who is belligerent or refuses to comply, they call the Grafton police, and the police come and remove the person for trespassing. So the same thing is going to be in effect here. Our businesses will be able to decide their policies, and Glendale police will show up if you refuse to comply by those policies and obey the rules when you're in those stores and restaurants and shops. You should expect to be asked to mask up anytime you go to the grocery store, anytime you're waiting on your car being serviced at the dealership, at medical and dental appointments, when you're at the bank. Basically, anytime you're in close proximity to other people indoors, in waiting rooms, aisles in stores, etc. Any of those places that are open to the public don't need a city order, emergency order in place in order to be able to impose those kind of rules. And I would actually suggest that we're going to be carrying masks with us for a long time. A number of our neighboring communities still have emergency orders in place. And so if you shop in Milwaukee or elsewhere, you're going to have to wear a mask because it's a requirement in those communities. Also, a lot of our stores here in the city of Glendale are also parts of large chains. So policies about mask wearing are actually made at a national level. So it doesn't matter what rules the city has in place. If you go into a Pick and Save store or a Trader Joe's or an Aldi's or a Starbucks, you're going to have to follow whatever rules are in place in those businesses. Those rules are set at a national level. As we have done since the beginning, we as city leaders, have followed the science, listened to the experts, and have tried to act in the best interest of the members of our community. The infection rates in the North Shore right now are low, and they are declining. And the vaccination rates among North Shore residents are going up every day. So the North Shore Health Department last week issued guidelines for vaccinated people and unvaccinated people and how we interact with one another. They told us that vaccinated people can interact freely with other vaccinated people without masks. They said that vaccinated people can interact with small numbers of unvaccinated people in limited settings without masks as well. So there's one more indication that we're not in an emergency situation anymore. We're going to continue to monitor the situation as city leaders. We're going to follow the advice of the Centers for Disease Control and the Wisconsin Department of Health Services and the North Shore Health Department. We believe that COVID is going to be an issue for a while, but the city of Glendale doesn't need to have an emergency order in place in order to be able to deal with it at this point. All of our city staff have had the opportunity to be vaccinated. We then opened City Hall beginning on Election Day earlier in April. City Hall has been open every day to residents who need to come in and transact business with the city. The state opened up the vaccination effort to everyone aged 16 and over a few weeks back. That means that now every member of the Common Council and all of our friends and neighbors that serve on city committees have the opportunity to get vaccinated if they choose. So we're going to commence in-person Common Council meetings and city committee meetings June 1st back here in City Hall. For those of you who don't feel comfortable coming out to City Hall, we have installed technology here in the council chambers that will allow all of our meetings to be broadcast to the public. So we welcome you out at public hearings and Common Council meetings and Plan Commission meetings, but if you don't feel comfortable or for some reason you're unable to come out, we are going to be able to broadcast those meetings so you can see your government in action. We are also planning a number of outdoor events this summer. You know, it is time as a community after such a long quarantine that we come back together, that we find opportunities to interact with one another in safe ways. So we're planning a lot of outdoor activities this summer. Starting on the 4th of July, we're going to have a scaled back 4th of July, but from the mid-afternoon through the evening and fireworks, we're going to have about 7 or 8 hours worth of activities on the 4th, and we welcome people to join us in Clutch Park for those events. After that, our Music in the Glen series is going to kick off in July and run into August. Root Beer Bash is going to be back again in August. And all throughout the summer, the Sprecher Beer Garden will be open at Meslowski Park. There will be baseball and softball games that you'll be able to attend at MSOE's Raider Stadium at Meslowski Park, as well as the Nicolay Fields that are now completed. For those of you who haven't been to Meslowski Park in a while, you'll be quite pleased when you go out there and see that the park is pretty much built out now and completed. You know, our community rallied to limit the spread of the disease. We closed a lot of shops and restaurants, and we slowly reopened with mask requirements in place. But we're now getting to a point where so many of our people are vaccinated and our numbers are so low that it really is time that we say it's no longer an emergency. It is certainly something we're going to have to deal with for a long time as a community, but we don't need special powers given to city leaders to do that anymore. So as of May 1st, 2021, our emergency declaration will be lifted. We encourage everybody who is able to get vaccinated, remind you to wash your hands, and anytime you're out in public around other people, wear that mask to protect yourself and your family and others around you, and to comply with the rules that are there in place set by the businesses. So thank you very much.